treasurer also for Mako for the state. He has agreed to come to Broadwater County and give us all a budget 101, so that everybody has maybe a more firm understanding of what the budget is, how it works, what we can do, what we can't do, what some of our opportunities are. So, I've already talked to Mike about this. I would be more than happy to set a date and ask Mike to come down and give us a full, just tutorial on the budget. That way you guys aren't just hearing from Debbie and Doug, but you're hearing from another expert on this subject. Hopefully that can help some of the misunderstandings.
Well, I think in this meeting we've been talking about to get set up, I guess it would work okay if McGinley was here. But I'm wondering if we shouldn't have the auditor here at the same time, where you're concerned about where this move's been going and stuff.
Well,
He should be able to say.
you know, I understand that. I can understand and I can appreciate the fact that Sheriff Logan might went over budget. But that, like I said, that jail has brought in revenue every damn year. And help me out. You know, if you're spending, if you're bringing in more than you're spending, where's the money going? You know, if you have a personal checkbook, every one of them's got a personal checkbook, and every time you put money in it, you're only spending half of it, guess what? It's still there, right? It doesn't seem that way with jail revenue. It seems like it's off in the clouds and it joined the iCloud. It just disappeared. Because if that's the case, that every year that jail has brought in revenue, and we were close or whatever, and that was going into cash reserves, it's been there 12 years. I struggle with the idea that in 12 years and having that many inmates so long, that I'm at 9% and it's rolled over every year. I struggle with that idea in every fashion. And
Does that sound okay? Do you have the auditor here when we have this next meeting now?
sure. I mean,
I think
if somebody could give me the answer, that'd be great.
Right.
You know, because I would love to know, show me on a piece of paper where it says this is the money that was rolled over every year. This is what was excess from your budget, here it was rolled over. Because it just doesn't, I mean, 300, my math is $366,000 from the reports that I got from Debbie that was left over between revenue and what was left in my budget. And I've got a cash reserves of $87,000, and so even the cash balance is less than that. So help me out. I took math 4 years. You know, I can use a calculator, and obviously I can't figure out the budget because I was within $5,000 of my expenditures last year. So.
Does that sound okay, that if we get the auditor for this next meeting? The only thing is gonna maybe delay, or there's one other person to get lined up. In fact, he'd probably be the most important because he's gotta come a distance to be here for that day. But we're gonna have to start getting some dates set up so he can be notified.
I will say this, is he could be, hold on. Yes, it can be any Monday or Wednesday except for the 25th. And that might, 25th, I'm gone, so.
Okay.
But any other Monday or Wednesday would be fine. So, just pick one and let me know when you can get your guy out of Beaverhead County.
Either him or the auditor, which I don't know, which should be this, probably the auditor, I guess.
We need both.
Depends what.
We
That's fine.
should be able to work with Bob when he's already here, so we do not have to pay a separate,
And he's here.
hourly wage and travel and all that good stuff. He'll be here with the closeout, he'll be here with the audit. We can certainly schedule some time for you to have a one-on-one conversation with him. Mike McGinley will be separate. I will see what works for him to come and give a department head, an elected official, 101 on the budget. We've had that with Harold, we've had Debbie give it, We'll have Mike give it, and that way everybody has information annually from a different person, so that if the communication doesn't work with the delivery from one, maybe it will work with the delivery of another. You and Mike, I think, would probably click, and I think if anyone can really help with that, he's probably the best one I can think of. So, I will see as soon as we can get him here and schedule that.
Go ahead, Dave.
When you schedule that training, would you please invite the mayor?
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, we will, and it will certainly be open to the public, as those always are. But thanks, Dave, absolutely.
I have one other issue that came up last night at the city budget, and Debbie might be able to answer this. The city overpaid, when they calculated the payments to the county, and Debbie's aware of it. And my suggestion to the city council was, that it'd probably cleaner for audit purposes. They want to do a reduction in payments this year, because they overpaid by 20. They gave us a check for $23,000 for the car, but then they added $23,000 and then divided it by 12 and paid that way again. So I thought for cleaner purposes for audit would be to reimburse them back that 23 and so everything, or would that be,
No, it's easier because it shows separate.
okay,
It shows separate.
okay,
Because the 23,000 went straight into the vehicle CIP, and then the rest stayed where it is. Mayor came in and talked to me. This year, they're gonna keep their payments the same. We've already put 23,000 of that into this year's CIP for vehicle. And then with their payments, and then they increased the revenues for wages and things by another 10,000. So they'll take, after we take that 23 out and they add that 10,000 back in for salaries, that payment will be divided up that way. But they did the same as last year.
okay, so you and Diane got it all worked out?
Yeah, we got it worked out,
Okay,
yeah.
so,
But it's actually easier to keep that way than try to refund, and
okay,
that gets messy with all the in and the out.
okay,
It's too easy to get lost.
yeah, well, it was
Oh.
brought up, so,
No, he came by and we got it figured out.
okay.
Okay, I guess until we get a date set up. And we'll probably meet with McGinley and then instead of the auditor, if that's the way it sounds.
No, frankly. Mike McGinley, Commissioner from Beaver
Right,
County,
I
is
know
going
him.
to come and give a 101 for department heads, elected officials, the mayor, and anyone else who wants to come and listen in and learn this stuff. Bob Denning, the auditor, is going to be coming to do year-end closeout and the county audit. And we are going to carve out some time for him to work one-on-one with Wynn, probably with Doug and Debbie as well, to answer questions one-on-one. So we're doing both.
What date would that be roughly when Bob's gonna be here?
He hasn't given a date yet. They're trying to get some of that scheduled. I just asked him, don't know yet. Soon. They want to get our audit done by the end of the year as well, instead of wait till March. But they don't have dates yet. They're scheduling all that with all their clients. I won't know for sure till he tells me we're coming.
So that part might be delayed a little longer when.
There's time.
Okay. But I guess McGinley can be here sooner, or has there been any communication with him on that?
Like I already said, I have talked to him already. He has said he is more than happy to come. So yes, we can go ahead and confirm something, but I don't have a confirmation on a date yet.
Right.
First priority was getting the budget done.
Okay, does that sound reasonable? Everything will work with you in on these? Maybe gonna delay it a little longer what you want, but then we'll get it done. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
Any other comments from anybody else? Corey?
I sent around a draft letter to, email to the commissioners and to Wayne last night. The letter that I'm suggesting we send to all the other counties that were asking for assist with costs on the Ferris case. So, Laura had suggested that we add Val as clerk of court as a person on that. And I'm fine with that so long as it's not considered, I don't know if it's considered improper, if the clerk of court is supposed to be impartial, so I don't know if Val, you have an opinion on that.
I guess I never read the letter, Corey, so I'm not real sure.
Okay.
But I did, Laura did send back an email to see if the District Court Association had a litigation fund. So I did put that out to the clerk of courts, but I have not heard back on that. I don't believe that we do. They've never talked about it at conventions, but I did put it out just in case,
Okay. Yeah, they're all paying for their own court costs, so,
yeah.
and there'd been a question whether the County Attorney's Association has anything like that, and they have funds, but they wouldn't, this isn't something that they'd be able to contribute to. Anyway, my recommendation is we get that done this week, sign it, and get it out the door. That's, so any other suggested edits, send them to me today if you can, and then I'll print them all on letterhead and get them around for signatures. Sound good?
Okay, yeah, you bet.
Can I ask a question about that? So they've given you $100,000 for the trial, is that correct? So you also signed $1 million loan with the hospital, right?
No,
You did not?
no, it is not a loan. What we have done, and I hand this to Doug again, those CDs are investments. We have changed the investment of the CDs to a backed CD by Medicare, Medicaid, which is an investment in our hospital. The hospital is going to pay that back to the county, but it is not a loan, it is a change in investment. So there's no money that came out of the budget, there's no money that is needed for anything else. This is money that would have been sitting in a 7 to 10 year maturity CD that's now gonna be in a 5-year maturity Medicare, Medicaid investment.
So that's not something you could do for the trial as well?
The trial is not something that has any kind of a return. The trial is just an expenditure. So you can't invest in something that's just an expenditure by law. So no, we can't. It's just an expense that we have to find a way to pay. And frankly, it's gonna be tough to come up with the money. We just don't have it. So, no, we can't. And that is something we worked with the auditor on. On Monday, we did work with him again on this, using money to infill some of these departments. We just can't do it. It's not allowed by law. So. And when he's here, you're more than welcome to sit down with him and Win as well. Most definitely. Doug, did I miss anything? Can you infill anything that isn't clear?
I don't think so.
Okay. Debbie? Okay. Believe me, we looked at that. We've looked at every option with those CDs. Mike, did you get a chance to talk to Corey about Bob's suggestion yesterday?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. Could we discuss that in a closed door when we're done?
We can, I mean, I expressed to Mike, I think there's a big downside to it, I don't think it's anything we wanna pursue. We'll talk about it later.
I would like to talk about it. I'd like to know what those are, just because I just don't know where that money's gonna come from. I mean, it's tight this year. Brandon, I believe you said we could look at 3 years. Told Mike that for this. I just don't know where we have the money. The 3-year trial?
Oh,
We don't have a timeline, we don't have a cost estimation, we don't have anything to go on, except for we might need to come up with more money, which we don't have. So, I'll tell you, I'm stressed about it. If there's another option, I'd like to at least talk about it. And if there's a downside to that option, educate me, if you would. But I think it should be in closed doors, we've discussed before, since it's litigation strategy.
Well, it's really, it won't affect litigation strategy, it's really money strategy, so. I guess what I've been pretty clear on all along is my suggestions are, number one, the additional money that you set aside, requesting the additional funds from other counties that were affected by this crime. If they all contribute what we ask them to, which I don't think they will, but you never know, that would be $175,000 additional money. And my next year's budget, if it's still, case is still going and still needed, I'm gonna ask for another $100,000. And then Wayne and I talked about, and we haven't finalized, but that option of the mill levy is still an option that's available. Those are the four things that I've been pretty clear about that I think are the ways to raise the money it's gonna take to complete this case successfully.
Okay, anything else? Is Wynn still here?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay.
I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to add one more thing. Laura, you said you're stressed about the budget, I understand that too, but as an elected official, not knowing if we're going to have the funding or not, and knowing that if my budget goes in the hole, I am personally responsible for that, I am also very stressed about that, over something that I have no control over. And, you know, I understand that, I just have to say this, and it's just a personal thing here. When you guys refer to this as a trial, we are talking about one of our employees who has lost their lives. And I think it's very, it makes it very unemotional, you know, because it's the trial. And I don't know how else you come upon that, but, amen, Val. It's just very, I don't know how else you would address it, but it just makes my heart hurt. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks, Val.
Well, I appreciate that. What's hard, I think, somebody very smart told me a couple years ago, the hardest part about being a commissioner is when you sit in this chair, you have to be a robot. And there's an awful lot of that. We're not allowed to be emotional. We're not allowed to put our hearts first and only. We've got to engage the brain, and money is unemotional and cold. And, yeah, there's a real conflict there. So I appreciate what you said, and I apologize, but we really do have to look at just the facts in front of us, and those are the cold, hard numbers, and come up with how we keep this county going and balanced, and then pay for these unforeseen expenses that, you know, are hard on all of us. So thank you for that.
You speak of it like it's a burden, but there's no greater burden than to me and my family. And it's ridiculous the way that y'all talk about it. You specifically talk about it. I understand that it's an expense, but it's an expense that you should gladly be willing to pay for my husband. I'm done with this.
Wynn, I started to say, you know, last Monday when everybody was gone, when you come, I gotta take responsibility for that. It was kinda like this, we talked budget, we was talking everything, and all of a sudden, you know, we kinda come to the end, and I said, well, I guess, is there anything else? And I adjourned the meeting. I should've looked down at the agenda, because I adjourned 15 minutes early.
Well, and it's, you know, I want you guys to be able to appreciate the fact, I don't have the time to sit over here at every commission meeting. It's not what the taxpayers pay me to do. You know, hell, I have arrested 3 people myself in the last, my assistant yesterday, because the guy didn't want to cooperate. So I had to go in and put hands on the guy. I arrested 2 guys in 18 hours. I don't have the time to come down here and sit through hours of meetings about things that don't pertain to public safety.
Yeah.
And when I see on the agenda 11:30, we walked out of here, we did a couple of things, we came back and that's frustrating because if you're gonna post that agenda, I want to just say, you know what, we have a break, let's just take a recess, go stretch our legs, drink some coffee, whatever, we'll come back to it. And I know there was other people that did the same thing.
Yeah.
And so,
And like I said, I think we had a couple recesses that morning, and there was, I don't know, it kinda went on, and like I say, we was talking to the budget, I think it was mostly Corey's budget at the time. And like I say, I take responsibility for it, I should've looked back on that agenda, I says, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn, and I should've just recessed, but I didn't, so.
well, I guess on a personal note, like Val said, you know, Jody, it took a lot of courage for Jody to come in here. To say she said. And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty disappointed in you guys for not even saying thanks for coming in. None of you guys said thank you, Jody, for coming in and talking to us. And, you know, let me be a little blatant, a little blunt, but sometimes that bites back on top of chicken shit too. And it took a lot for her to be here, it took a lot for the staff and the family to be here, and not to even say thank you was unacceptable in my mind. So, with that, I'm gonna go track her down because she's upset. So, unless you have something else for me.
I don't do, nobody else or anything.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Win. Any other comments from department heads, employees, commissioners?
Just the request for a conversation with Cory.
Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope so. I asked him.
I'll see if he's out here.
Come up with another $100,000 next year's gonna cut into public safety. We cannot get rid of extension, we cannot get rid of the museum, and that's what we'll be looking at. Those guys can throw every bomb you want it, and that's the bottom line is.
You know, what they said, they can do the motion and say, you have a legal responsibility to budget the budget, to balance the budget with the amount of money that's available. And I don't envy you of doing that, but that is your legal responsibility. They can sit on that side and talk all you want.
I will use the division that they are purposely
You
causing.
know, and Debbie said she would give him a call to come down, so she was just heading to her office.
So will this be a closed door session?
Corey didn't seem to say so, so it's up to him. I'd
I'm
say.
gonna ask for that because, well, I'm gonna ask for that, just so that there isn't anything said that puts anybody in jeopardy, which is the concern that Corey voiced the last time we had a discussion. We're gonna have some help with leadership, because this county's gonna be ripped apart from the middle. And it's gonna fall on the elected leaders, and right now we don't have anybody, so just put that in your back pockets.
He'll be in a minute, he's out talking with Jordan on the street, so as soon as he's done, he'll be in.
Yeah.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
He's outside talking to Jody, so he'll be in. Do you need me here for,
No, anything on the budget that you can help this commission understand our role better?
this wasn't the place or time to educate people. If you go over, you're hurting yourself. It's not anything anybody's done, but over time, it adds up. And he's trying to catch up from things that went awry several years ago. And it's not gonna get better as long as the state plays with things the way they do.
Do you see any options for us, for Broadwater County, to come up with another, even this 100 grand was hard to come up with. 75,000 was killing us. Anything you see as far as options?
No, because, I mean, we kind of talked about here in the past, about fee structures. No one talks about, nobody wants to pay for all these services. It's a start, I guess, and we've already talked about that. Charging fees to other agencies for things they want, no more free handouts. Every piece of paper costs, or time costs. So people want, they need to be expected to pay. It's not a lot, it's a start, but maybe people will not be so willing to come in and get 10 copies and then keep asking for copies because they're not responsible when they keep track of them. I don't know.
Do you see this county coming out of this? You see us going into a black hole of doom and gloom and hatred and division? Or do you see?
If
that
it
we
keeps
will-
going the way it is right now, yeah.
Do you see
This
anything?
division. If we don't start working together and trying to understand we're all together and keep pulling us apart, it's not gonna get better, it's gonna get worse.
Do you see anything we, the commission, can do to help?
You know, we've talked about, I've been very vocal about communication. You gotta be there. I know some of us don't have time to sit down here, review YouTubes,
You waiting on me?
but we gotta talk to each other. There's no harm in that.
Oh.
10 emails versus none. I've said before, I'd rather get too much information than not enough. Some of us don't like emails, but that's what it takes. That's the communication nowadays. You don't get letters in the mail, it's email. Phone calls, leave a voicemail, if somebody doesn't answer, then the burden becomes their responsibility for ignoring their emails, ignoring their phone messages. We're in this together.
We have to be in this together.
We have to be. And you start saying, well, museum's not important, or extension's not important, because they are, you're gonna divide people, and that's not the answer either. We gotta work together, it's like being married, everybody's married to each other. We all have access to the same money, so we all gotta talk to each other, share with each other, that's why we all got reports, so we all kinda know what's going on. Because if we don't keep up on that and try to burden it with one person, I don't know what more, people just gotta own up to some of it. Try to cast blame on somebody else is not the answer. For not knowing. Gotta be proactive too. If you don't know, ask questions. I've learned the hard way here. If you don't ask a question, you aren't gonna know. If you wait for somebody to tell you, you probably won't know. And so I'm not afraid to ask questions, because that's how you learn information. I don't know. So I'll do some digging, see what I can find, but I've watched the budget since I took over this job, and people forget that this is what I'm gonna spend, and if I go over that, where's the money come from? Seen it with too many people this last year, and too many of their budgets, they think the county's flush with all kinds of money and we're not. What I take, if I go over my budget, it's gonna affect Corey. If he goes over budget, it's gonna affect you. It affects all of us. It's that big pool of money, like the auditors, the bank every said, it's ours. And this year, a lot of people went over with that mentality. They have access to reports. I can't help babysit everybody. I don't know. But if you do that over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, then you find yourself suddenly, what happened? It happens a little bit at a time, little chunk, little nibbles, nice nibbles. And then you suddenly find yourself in the hole, and what happened? I can look at reports, and I can guarantee that's what's happened over time. Spend over, spend over, spend over, and don't replace it with some additional revenue somewhere, somehow, it will eat away at those forward cash balances. To all of us. Well, that's, I don't know how to educate that to people. Maybe saying everybody's married, and that's my account, that's our account. I'm spending money, I know that's what claims are for, I don't know if we're cognizant of everybody else besides ourselves. Maybe help. So I think some of our plan moving forward, monthly meetings with everybody will help this next year. It's a slow start, we gotta start somewhere. I just don't know,
Yeah,
but we all have to want to.
yeah, thanks, Debbie.
I'll see what I can find on some of those questions.
All right,
I think I know the answer, but we'll find out.
all right, thanks.
Okay, Corey back here, you got a question for him? Laura?
Yeah, and I made it clear I'd like to, I have some questions that I'd like to discuss with you that I think, you will not be able to answer unless we're in closed door because of, some of the things you said before. So, if I can't ask legal questions of you, then what I will ask in open session is just a reiteration of what Harold Blatty and Eric Bryson had mentioned when they were here. Can you please get us a timeline so that we don't have everybody shooting out, it's gonna be a year, it's gonna be 2, it's gonna be 3, and can we also get an expectation of costs? We have, we have every number in the book thrown at us. We can't plan without something to go by.
We have a scheduling conference on September 15th. Until then, because our current schedule is gone on the trial. So after September 15th, I give you a pretty good schedule.
That would be appreciated, thank you.
Costs, I'm working on that as far as, there's assumptions in there that are unknowns until likely next spring. But I'm working on that, and I think that after the September 15th, sometime after that, when we have the schedule, I can also forecast some costs associated with each big event. That's what I'm working on. I found some ways to save some money, and I've found some things that may cost a little bit more than I expected, so it's a wash right now. And I think I need a couple more weeks to, because the schedule will drive a lot. The schedule will drive whether things are this fiscal year, next fiscal year, et cetera.
We don't have, we took everything from extension, fair, search and rescue, museum, airport, ambulance. There's nothing left there. The general fund's going into this year with absolutely no reserves. We've taken it all. So we're gonna need as much help from you as we can get if there's gonna be further requests, because we just don't have it.
And that was all for that 100,000?
100, well, yeah. Yeah, as you know, we were going into the year with a negative to fund the deputy county attorney. So, yeah, that 100 grand is about the extent of it.
Okay, so that's gone, the deputy's gone, right? Did you pull the 25,000 that you had for contract legal
Mhm.
services?
Now, that was done before the preliminary, just
Okay.
right after the preliminary. So,
I guess I don't see the secretary as being an increased cost, I see it as a net neutral because it's replacing the 16 hours a week that was Brooke Dolan, and it's gonna be up to 20 hours at a lower wage.
you'll probably wanna sit down with Debbie on that. There's a match for those grants, and that's something we talked about that we had missed. So those grants, it's not a huge match, but there is a match, so it's not quite a wash. There is an additional expenditure there, and that's something that, talking to Debbie, the secretary doesn't worry me, but it's the unforeseen costs and knowing that they're out there. How do we plan for those so that
Right.
we can make sure that we keep the county whole and keep this division from getting wider? That's gonna be our role, because if we are faced with literally getting rid of people, getting rid of departments, that is going to rip this community apart, and that's not where we wanna go. And that's where we need to be looking ahead in a way that is planning and not just reactionary. We've gotta be putting that forward, the planning. We just need it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess I don't see what those additional costs are for the match though, because the match that we used for her grant were her health insurance and the office space, and those were already expenses the county had. So that
Again,
shouldn't
I'm gonna
increase.
ask you to talk with Debbie. I don't have all
Okay.
the books in front of me. She's the expert on this. She can show you where there are costs not covered by the grant, there are matches. The grant is a huge help, and it's a good grant. I know we've had it for a long time. It is not 100%. So if you can work with Debbie, you can have a more firm understanding of that, but I don't have the grant paperwork here.
Okay, so just to be clear though, the pulling money from everywhere, that was for the 100,000 for the litigation fund, is that correct?
Right, no. No. And we did not pull it from public safety, I just want that clear. They kept their mills the same. We took absolutely nothing from public safety to balance this. It all came from general fund departments, extension, fair, airports, search and rescue, all those.
Did you pull any from PILT for that?
No. No.
So-
PILT, we're gonna have to sit on this year. We don't know what's happening next year, and if there are costs that we don't see, if anything happens. I mean, that's where that $50,000 that we came up with after Mason was killed, that came from PILT. And it was great that we had that, so that that alleviated some of the stress on Wynn and staff. Then setting up that 43-8 fund, so that they had some extra money, 50 grand a year from PILT, to spend in a way that honors Mason. Those things are important. We couldn't do those if we used all our PILT in July, August. And I'm proud that we were able to do that. And so anything you can do to help us to plan would be a huge help moving forward.
Do you know when the monthly evaluation of this guy's gonna be done?
No.
That you'll find that out this 15th or 16th September, you say, or?
It's on their timeline right now, but it'll be sometime this fiscal year, my expectation.
Okay.
Lucy Clark is in charge of this, I assume, for him.
Missoula?
Oh, is he back in Missoula now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought it was still Lucy Clark.
No, they're not charging us.
Missoula County is in quite a little bit too. That's where the actual
Yeah.
second shooting took
I don't know
place.
if you've seen, I mean, they've had a string of homicides this summer. They've had three new homicide cases since this case. And their hands are full.
Wasn't it just, it was kinda off the record. Are we through with everything?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we are. Thanks, Cory. I was gonna ask you real quick, wasn't it, they found two bodies in his basement and had him in some kind of chemical trying to dissolve them or something?
Yeah, was that in Missoula though?
Great Falls.
Was it Great
Oh,
Falls?
it's Great Falls? Oh,
Excuse me a moment. Do you want to adjourn this meeting so I can turn off the camera before we have this time?
Oh, I thought it was, okay,
Are we
it's
adjourned?
adjourned, yeah.
Okay. Can I catch up with you later? I have something urgent that's going on right now. Can I, so I'll come down